All right, what is up, you beautiful people, and welcome back to another Direct Strike Commander Guide. Today, featuring Fenix. Let's get right to it, boys. So here is our game plan. We are going to take a look at the Fenix mindset. We're going to look at his units, some strategy, and then finally we'll showcase some gameplay at the end of the video. If you guys just want to see the gameplay, you can go ahead and skip all the unit description. But yeah, we're just going to go through everything. So, welcome new faces. If you guys are not yet subscribed, be sure to drop a sub if you want to see some weekly Brawl Commander gameplay. I do those every single day of the week. So if you're new here or you've been watching for some time and you just haven't subbed, go and drop that subscribe so you can keep up with more of this content. Let's get right into it. So we're gonna take a look at the Fenix mindset. I gotta say, here's the Fenix mindset. There's always a Fenix suit for every situation, and sometimes you just have to cheese it out in order to win. We'll take a look at what that means further down the line. So here are Fenix's Purifiers. So tier 1, we have the Legionary, really just like a frontline tank. It's stronger than your regular Zealot, but suffers from all the same problems that your regular Zealot would suffer from. I mean, to be fair, this is probably the only Zealot that could probably face off against a bunch of Ultralisk and maybe win. But other than that, you're really just looking at a nice meat shield unit that you want to sprinkle throughout your wave. I would say it's probably the weakest Zealot when it comes to meat shielding, even though it has the most health and damage output. It doesn't have any other survival mechanisms like, say, Karax Zealots or Vorzun Zealots might have. And then we have the heroic version, which is Caldalis. You can warp in Caldalis from a Zealot. He will cost less if you warp him in from a Zealot. And he's a tankier Legionary. Sorry, I've been saying Zealot, but yeah, he's tankier Legionary. And he has a passive Engage, which causes him to leap into battle, so he'll always jump on top of enemies. Caldalis also attacks, I think, twice as fast as the regular Zealot, so he is actually a viable source of DPS. However, because of his Engage ability, Caldalis almost always dies within like the first 4 seconds of combat, so it's a bit of a meme. Empowered Blades is pretty good if you need the AoE, like for example against Zerglings or enemy Zealots, because the more Legionaries you build, the stronger his Empowered Blades are. And so it could get to the situation where Caldalis' AoE is actually stronger than the attack he does to the guy he's hitting. So you could be cleaving everybody else around him. That being said, though, this is more like a cherry on top. If you really are struggling with Zerglings, then I guess you could get this, but better solutions include Colossi, which you can find at tier 3. Next, we have the Adept. This is probably Fenix's most versatile unit, and you will probably want to be buying these in large numbers. So Adepts are basically just, I would say, tankier Marines that are anti-light with smaller range and slower attack speed. But unlike the Adepts in ladder, these Adepts can hit air and ground, albeit they only have like 4 range, I think, 4 or 5 range, something small, so they have to get pretty close. Psionic Projection is something you gotta buy with Adepts because it basically increases the Adept's damage output. The shade that it puts out just deals damage with attacks, so it's just augmenting the Adept DPS. So I would say this is going to be the bulk of the units you will be buying, at least in tier 1, your Adepts. Talus is the hero unit of the Adept. You can warp her in from an Adept that is already on your field, and she will cost less this way, or you can buy just buy her in the hero tab. So Talus is basically a must-have. Even if you have no Adepts, you should still buy a Talus. So her Ricochet Glaive passive hits up to 3 enemy units for 25 damage, or 35 if they're light, 7-second CD, and it gets increased damage per Adept. With the Debilitation System upgrade, her Ricochet Glaive now hits 8 enemies. It hits 5 more enemies, and all enemies hit take more damage from just whatever sources. So even if you have no Adepts, you could just still run a Talus. I think it's still a good idea, but chances are you're going to have lots of Adepts, and you're going to have Talus. Talus is like a huge powerhouse, and you want to try and keep her alive for as long as possible. And then next we have the Conservator. This is a mobile shield generator. It's good to start off with 1 in the early game, but if you want to cover like the entire width of your wave, you'll probably need 3. It puts down a protective field. You can probably micro this for maximum efficiency and output, but the automatic cast is is a hit or miss. Sometimes it puts it down and then like your units walk right past it. So that's not that great. You can preemptively put it down where your units will be, and it reduces incoming damage by 25%. I think it used to be 35% actually. So actually this got nerfed. At tier 3, you can buy an upgrade which increases the duration of the shield from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. And I would say you should buy this. The 25% damage reduction for everything within the shield is actually like massive. It's the difference between like getting one shot and like surviving, you know? So I would say conservators are probably one of like the best support units. They are very pricey though, coming in at 175 minerals. Tier 2. Tier 2 unlocks your Phoenix Praetor suit, or just all your Phoenix warps. I would say, for the most part, you probably want to try and get Phoenix out as early as possible because he's very strong in the early game. He does a lot of things that you'll need. So his basic form that you'll be able to buy first is the Praetor suit. It's this four-legged hulking beast, basically. This is the tankiest Phoenix suit, and it's very good against small melee units, and it can dive into the enemy backline to stun their siege units. So personally, I would actually micro Phoenix because otherwise he would just use Thunderous Charge and then Whirlwind almost all the time. So micro Thunderous Charge and Whirlwind, and keep Shield Capacitor on auto cast. So Phoenix only has 500 energy, so keep in mind, if you use a Whirlwind, you can either use a Shield Capacitor or Thunderous Charge twice. So, or Thunderous Charge, sorry, 3 times. So I would say if you need them for tanking, Shield Capacitor is almost a must. So just use Thunderous Charge and don't use Whirlwind. Whirlwind is very good when you're against basically a large number of Zerglings or other sort of close range melee units, because Phoenix does 210 damage basically over the course of 3 seconds. That'll be enough to kill most things. So you can even dive a bunch of Hydralisk and Whirlwind them as well, but not really as great. Thunderous Charge is great at just stunning stuff. It's a 3-second stun, so it can silence a bunch of tanks, and it'll force your opponents to split up their units. And Shield Capacitor just basically gives them 500 health back. And so for the most part, you will need this Phoenix to sort of push through some like heavy damage like positions, like lots of tanks or even like lots of banelings. But eventually, of course, it's going to drop off because, well, enemy damage output's going to increase, but you're only going to have one Phoenix. So advisable that you get him out as early as possible. Next, we have Dragoon Suit. After Phoenix's front lining is basically sort of like fallen off, I would suggest you switch to Dragoon Suit. Dragoon Suit is the highest DPS suit. It basically just gives you a 9 range, super powered Dragoon, 500 shields, 500 health. And he's got Solar Cannon, which just blasts like in a very wide straight line, 100 damage. And he's got Solarite Flare, which does 100 damage in like, I would say small to medium AoE to air units. So this is probably like your best counter against Mutalisk. It doesn't one-shot them, but it brings them very close to death, which will allow your scouts, your adepts, or your carriers to finish them off. You also have Arsenal Overcharge, which is like a 6-minute cooldown initially. And so after 6 minutes, you can use it, and that will basically give Solar Cannon and Solarite Flare no cooldown. You still have an energy cost. So Solar Cannon actually got nerfed because before it was 125 energy. So with the Arsenal Overcharge, you could theoretically use 4 Solar Cannons. However, now you can only use 3. Still very powerful, like 300 burst damage, and it's enough to like destroy most things. But you basically have to micro the Arsenal Overcharge, otherwise it will use it improperly. This is probably the most versatile suit, and I tend to like to keep Phoenix in Dragoon Suit most of the time, like once his Praetor suit has outlived its usefulness. And then finally, at tier 3, you can unlock the Cybros Arbiter suit. And this is basically just an Arbiter. This is the cheesiest Phoenix suit. I would say if you really are looking to end the game and your opponents aren't paying attention, you can go to tier 3, switch over to this Phoenix suit, and make sure you micro Stasis Field. Stasis Field puts a small units, like a small AoE of units hit into stasis. They can't do anything. They have no abilities. What you want to do is when your wave pulls up, you Stasis Field their detectors, and your entire wave is always going to be cloaked by the cloaking field that the Arbiter provides, and you might just destroy like half their wave or even all of it before they even realize what's happening. So that's why it's the cheesiest suit, because if your opponent just loses that entire wave to your wave, you get a free kill, and then you can go on to the next wave. And if they're still not paying attention, then like you basically just plowed a path through to the Nexus, and you could probably just win there. So Cybros Arbiter, you probably don't want to get it too early. maybe around 10 minutes or 15 minutes is actually a good time to pull it out. Especially when the battle is like, especially when you're starting to hit critical mass and you start to have a lot of units. And also, if you pull out the Cyber's Arbiter, you gotta try and win within like the next 2 or 3 waves, because otherwise your opponent's gonna catch on, and you might as well switch back to Dragoon form after that. Because the Arbiter doesn't actually have a lot of DPS by itself. It is a pretty huge observer because it's got 500 shields, 500 health. But other than that, you're just gonna pull this out for a cheese win. If you can't cheese the win, then you're just gonna have to fight on. All right. Fenix also has a bunch of other upgrades. At tier 3, you can get Purifier armaments, which just gives them plus 15 attack damage, which is pretty good. The Dragoon does 55 damage, so it brings it up to 70 damage per shot. Just get it. And then there's also a Strong Heart, which you can get at, I think, tier 2. You spend 25 minerals to rename Fenix to Talendar. I don't know. Personally, I would just save the 25 minerals. I don't know. Anyways, Fenix's other tier 2 units. We got the Immortal. So coupled with the Adepts, Immortals are probably the other unit that you would want to be buying lots of. Adepts can clear off any light units, and Immortals will clear off any armor units. And together, they are a pretty good combo. You're basically, when you play Fenix, you're basically just trying to assemble a Protoss Death Ball, except in Direct Strike. Immortals, you probably want to have... I actually do not know the optimal ratio, but maybe like 2 to 1, like 2 Adepts to 1 Immortal, or maybe 3 Adepts to 1 Immortal, depending on the situation. Immortals are quite tanky, and I don't think I really need to say too much more about them. We got Talendar, or not Talendar, Taldarin, also a Tal. Taldarin is the heroic immortal, and I want to say he has the highest high roll potential, I think, of all the Fenix heroes. Maybe the second highest, I would say. So his basic attack is an AoE. It's kind of not really an AoE, but it's like it creates an AoE effect that pulls enemies together. It basically just creates a baby gravity well every time he attacks. So he attacks the unit and he pulls all neighboring units closer to it. And every time he hits the enemy unit, they will just essentially clump together, making them more vulnerable to AoE. Now, gravimetric overload will make this gravity well actually do something. So every time he hits a unit, it will start stacking 25% of the damage he deals to that unit, and then when it dies, that damage pops, like all of that damage pops. And if there's a bunch of units in that AoE, they will all take that damage and potentially just all die, which is why it's high roll potential. This damage storage increases per each immortal. So for example, if you have 100 immortals, it actually stores damage, not 100 immortals, like 10 immortals. It'll store damage like even faster. So it'll store 125% of attack damage. Now, this is a must buy if you guys like a bunch of like Marauders or like other like similarly sized ground units that are armored. But that being said, Taldarin is not the tankiest. He only has 600 health and he is a ground unit, so he's not going to high roll that hard unless you can really protect him, and he has only 1 immortal at the end of the day. Still pretty good, pretty strong, and you should buy him if you're facing any armored threats in general. And then we have the Scout. For 145 minerals, this is Fenix's only option against most air units. It's not good. It's very cheap. It has the reverse Goliath problem. It has an anti-light gun that shoots ground units. It's alright against like Marines and Hydras. Alright as in like not really that good, to be honest. And its anti-air missiles are passable. They don't do any like AoE. They get absolutely mauled by anything that does AoE in the sky. So basically literally everything except for Phoenixes. And even then, they kind of trade even with Phoenixes. So all I'm saying is, Scouts kind of suck. And that's very unfortunate, because if Fenix had a good Air Force, he would actually be really, really strong. However, in a Fenix mirror, Scouts are really good because they actually hard counter Adepts. And Fenix has no other unit that actually shoots up at the Scouts. Like if you go Adept Carrier, I think the Scouts can win. So yeah, but literally Scouts against everything else, they just get bodied. They just get bodied by basically anything else that flies. I don't think I can think of a unit that Scouts would like just hardcore crush. Like they could hold their own, but like you need to like go all in on Scouts to hold your own. You can't just get a handful of them. Good thing is they're cheap. Mojo is probably the only unit in the air, like the only Scout that actually is good. He has an AoE attack that stuns enemies. I think it's only if you upgrade the suppression procedure, but his basic attacks are always AoE. So that's pretty good. If you couple that with if you're against Mutalisk, Mojo can do a pretty good job. If you get the Phoenix Airburst, bam, and then Mojo just bam, AoE them, and then they're all dead. But the problem is, of course, you only have Mojo. So if Mojo goes down, you're kind of boned. Yes. The outlook on Phoenix Air is not that great, is basically what I'm trying to tell you guys. Suppression procedure still helps. It's better than nothing. But Phoenix is not an air dominant commander whatsoever. Next, we have Tier 3. So Tier 3, we have some solid solutions to Hydras and Marines, and we also have Carriers. So Carriers are sort of the unit that you would buy as a complement, I think, with Adept Immortals. Or you can, just spam them. You could also do that too, if you like. We got the Graviton Catapult, which increases carrier DPS. If you're gonna go carriers, you might as well buy it. Quolarian is a bigger carrier. That's really it. The Interceptors don't do more damage, but they have Interdictors, which is an upgrade you can buy, which will make it so that they will bomb ground targets for AoE damage, and it increases damage per carry you have. You probably want to get this, and I would say probably a must buy if you're against a lot of anti-ground units. Anti-air units that are on the ground. Quolarian also has a Void Ray Beam, which kind of helps out with his lackluster DPS being a carrier. It can at least kind of fight a battle cruiser-like entity, but for 925 minerals, like, you hope to God it should be able to do that. To be fair, you probably want to go Quolarian only if you're massing carriers, honestly. And if you're massing carriers, then you're committed. You're all in, boys. So yeah. Next, we have the Colossus, 300 minerals, very cheap, very spammable. Actually, you could just buy a lot of these, like to support your Adept Immortal line, and that would be pretty good. They don't have any bonus damage attacks and whatever, but they do a decent amount of damage. They don't set the ground on fire like the Karax ones, but still pretty strong, I would say, in large numbers, because it's still AoE. AoE is AoE. Warbringer is probably the best Colossus in the game. I think Warbringer actually has some very fast attack speed. As well, its attacks slow enemy move speed and attack speed. And if you upgrade Purification Blast, which is a must-buy, by the way, Warbringer just fires this devastating blast that does 150 plus 50 per Colossus to like a single target. So the meme potential here is you buy a bunch of Colossus and then you have Warbringer, and then you micro this to like deal damage to specific targets, such as the enemy nexus, if you're close enough. That being said, it is meme potential in the sense that if you're at that point in the game, then, like, I don't know, things have been going your way for quite some time. But Purification Blast, nonetheless, is still something you should get because it'll help you just deal more damage over time, overall. To be fair, if you need a Colossus, I would say just get Warbringer, and if the situation is not brought under control by Warbringer, then you should get more. Warbringer is just really, really strong. And finally, we have the Disruptor. The Disruptor is a very niche unit. Sometimes maybe you can consider it a meme unit, but it's pretty good against large squads of guys that like bunch up. Very good against bunkers or diamondbacks, even very good against enemy immortals, I would say. Like any sort of medium to small unit that bunches up in large amounts, disruptors are pretty good against. You cannot get disruptors like by themselves. You kind of want to get them to complement your Adept Immortal line, because if you don't have anything, then the disruptor will cast the Purification Nova like on an area. The ball doesn't like move out, it just appears. So if your opponents are running at you and they cast it and the guys just run past the Nova, then your disruptors did no damage. So you kind of want to have battle lines in place first, and then have the disruptors show up like half a second later to cast their blast, and then that'll do some devastating damage because it does huge amounts of AoE. And the cooldown's like decently short, that you will probably get 2 Purification Novas off per wave. And I would highly recommend you get the Purification Echo, because it basically just makes your disruptors do even more splash damage, which is probably why you got them in the first place. A handful of disruptors could easily just destroy like a large group of units, and could turn a ground battle in your favor. So there we have it. Oh yes, I forgot, Probius, the secret unlockable. You can unlock Probius if you have every single Phoenix hero. Once you have every single Phoenix hero, you can put them down. Probius is literally just a probe, 20 shields, 20 health, but He gains +1 attack damage for every Phoenix unit you have out on the field. That being said, he also has the attack speed of a probe and the attack range of a probe. So, yeah. Probius is not likely going to get any kills. But, hey, it's a free hero. Alright, let's look at some general builds. As I've already been hinting towards, I've been like hinting heavily towards it for like this whole video. The Adept Immortal build is probably your most safe Phoenix build because it is good against most things. You can toss in Zealots and Phoenix in his Praetor suit if you need something to do front line. But generally, Adept Immortal is pretty strong. Toss in some Conservatives for damage reduction, and then you can either decide on getting Colossi if you really need the just sort of the anti-ground. But I think Carriers would probably be better because Carriers would actually be able to give you some anti-air presence. This composition is relatively weak towards anybody who has Banshees. Or to be fair, I'm just thinking about Raynor, really, because Stukov Banshees are more manageable because they don't do AoE. Raynor Banshees, and I would say Nova Banshees are actually pretty hard to deal with too. But I would say Raynor is probably the hardest opponent for you to fight because of those Banshees, and because of Phoenix's inability to have any sort of air superiority without going 100% scouts. And even then, you might not win. Now, a second build that I like on Phoenix is the Hail Mary, boys. It's carriers, carriers, carriers. This is a self-explanatory build. If you go for this build, your team will probably hate you. But if it works out, well, you'll probably score a win, depending on the opponent. But yeah, Phoenix has the cheapest carriers in the game, 390 minerals. So the Hail Mary could pay off. Could, with quotation marks. If it does pay off, it pays off pretty well. But for all intents and purposes, please do not use a Hail Mary unless you're feeling it today. Alright, some hard counters. As I've been alluding to it, actually, well, I have been alluding to it, but also these guys. Any sorts of large amounts of AoE is going to be very problematic for Phoenix. Your Adepts and Immortals tend to clump a lot because of their size and their range. So Vanguards are pretty dangerous, but manageable because Vanguards at the end of the day don't do that much to light, but they can still shred. I would say the bigger threat is stuff like Aberrations, Banelings. I think Artanis' Reavers are also potentially pretty strong because they will massacre your Adepts, allowing Artanis' Immortals to get to your Immortals. And also Infested Tanks, I think to a lesser degree because they're very expensive, but like once they start getting rolling, then it could be dangerous, but you will have to splash in Legionaries here and there. Legionaries just in general aren't very good against the Banelings because they tend to clump and then they just die. Thors and tanks together with Swan are pretty strong because the Thors can stun your Adept Immortal line while the tanks set up. And Raynor tanks just don't care. They just set up really fast and they can shell you to pieces while Firebats hold off the assault. So yes. Nova's waves are also kind of hard to deal with, though Hellbat Rangers are slightly easier to deal with because they are light units, but they have so much health and they stun, so I wouldn't say they're really that much easier to deal with. So yeah, Phoenix is mostly a ground-based commander, and he does excel at ground supremacy, but he does have difficulty dealing with too much splash damage on the ground. You'll just get completely run over. That being said, that's really your only viable option of fighting. So that's that. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, you'll run into Raynor or Han and Horner, and then you will just cry and fall over and die. Because against the Sovereign BC, you literally have nothing. Like you have Scouts which die in like 2 shots to the Sovereign BC. I think they actually die in 1 shot because Scouts only have 250 health total. Sovereign BCs can 1-shot them. Mojo can handle them, like one of them. Once the second one shows up, that's a problem. But the bigger problem is that Deimos Vikings exist. So you probably want to try and drag the fight onto the ground as much as possible. Because if, well, technically it's not if, it's more of a when, because Han and Horner is definitely going to get that Sovereign BC. And Raynor is definitely going to get those Banshees. You just kind of have to try and tough it out. Here's where you're going to have to use the Arbiter cheese to try and like just stealth your wave and just get them to like get the free damage out. And you just got to Prage. Void Rays are also decently threatening, but because they clump harder, they're not nearly as dangerous. They have less range as well. But yeah, Raynor Vikings will absolutely destroy all of your scouts, and you will be very, very sad. Anyways, that's essentially it for the guide portion of this video. Now we're gonna go and get some gameplay. All right, here we go, boys. Let's get right to it. All right. How sweaty are we gonna be, boys? Are we gonna not gas? I think we're not gonna gas here, boys. We're gonna go no gas, super sweat. No gas, super sweat, boys. Let's get. Now we're gonna gas. I'll probably send out some sonic projections here. This is just regular commanders, though. God. Let's see. I got the sonic projections, so we can try and win here. Alright. There's one flame boy. I'm up against Manx. That's going to be pretty tough here. I turn up the game volume now, so I wonder if it's going to be too loud, but we'll see here. So now we get to get the gas here. A little bit of middle income. That's a Nova. That is a Nova. Against Manx, he's going to have some flame boys. So actually, against Manx, I'm going to want to get tier 2 ASAP. Because he's going to pull up with all Flame Boys next wave. And those Flame Boys are going to crush my Adepts. The single Flame Boy here didn't do much. But if he's going to get Zerglings, he's going to get those guys. They are going to devour me. I'm going to lower my own game volume right now because it's very loud. In my own ears. But it might sound at the perfect sound level. Like, you might actually be able to hear the game and my voice. But yeah, my allies have not put down anything. Nova's gonna snipe my guy. Ooh, rip Adept. I mean, that's okay. This way we're gonna lose here for sure. We got some of that. We got an Aegis Guard. What is this guy doing? So yeah, you see here, all Flame Boys. Flame Boys are gonna be really good against us, but do you know what's really good against Flame Boys? It's gonna be Fenix in his Blender form. Gotta get your boy Fenix here. We're gonna have save up here. We're gonna take a little bit of an L for now in terms of the prio, but it'll be okay. I think I do actually want to make like a little position here like that. Something like that. Okay, it's always worth saving for Fenix, even though he costs 600. Definitely worth it. We got the Aegis Guard here. Dahaka. Gonna eat us here. This guy is some sort of... Come on. Perfect. I'm gonna put him on 2. But for now, I think I want Fenix to be in his Thunderous Charge mode. Actually, I just want him to Whirlwind, probably. Like, all these guys are gonna run up on him. Done. Fenix is also just mechanical heroic. He's gonna be pretty hard to deal with. I think I'm gonna turn this on. Shield Capacitor. That'll keep Fenix alive for longer. And we got a Covert Banshee here. That's going to be a little problematic for us to deal with here. But I think I will get some more Adepts here. I think we're in a position to get some more Adepts. Let's get an Observer here. And let's get a Conservator as well. There we go. Let's get a Conservator here. I enjoy to make a formation like this because I think that'll allow all the units to be shielded pretty nicely. Is this guy finally putting out... Oh, he put out a bunch of Stalkers. Okay. Interesting. Interessant indeed. Okay. Nova can really counter you, by the way, because Nova's Ghost can just put a shield... put an EMP and remove everything... Basically remove everything, like all your energy and your ability to cast this Fenix. And that is pretty devastating. Warhounds are pretty good against me, in general. Let's see. Alright, I'm gonna get my girl Talus. I'm gonna put her down here. Yeah, I'm gonna put her down on the side, actually. Let's do that. And I gotta start focusing on getting some more Immortals. I think with Fenix, asymmetrical formations are actually pretty good. Like making sure one side is stronger than another is actually not a bad choice. That's a lot of Stalkers coming out here from this guy. Yup. It's got the Zelnaga skin on them too. Stalkers in this large amount is not a bad choice, I suppose. Let's see. I think I'm going to want Fenix to just Thunderous Charge here and just like... Boom. Stun everything here. You can see here the shield is alright. Okay, Thunder's charge to the back. Oh. Couldn't turn on my shield capacitors in time there, so that's on me. There we go. And let's get some more immortals. By some immortals, I mean, let's get our first group of immortals here. There we go. Thank goodness this is mostly a ground battle, because if it wasn't, I think we would be in even more trouble. I didn't get this debilitation system. I'm going to try and max out the number of immortals I have on the field first, and then we're going to try and go for the debilitation system. If anything, if all else fails, disruptors are actually pretty good in this situation here. Oh, baby Talus. And then we got Strong Heart. Let's get that here. We got the Black Hole coming out here. I think I will actually let Shield Capacitator autocast, because I do want Thunderous Charge to be available most of the time. Thunderous Charge is pretty good. There we go. Shield Capacitors are on. Boom. Thunderous Charge is on. There we go. Alright, the shield is up again. You can see here the damage reduction is pretty good. And our immortals are just going to punch through here. Oh, but you can see here the Hellbat Rangers are going to be a big problem. And we're going to start seeing some tanks probably for Mengs here. I'm going to put down some more immortals here. I might actually put them down like this. This is a very strange formation I've got going on here. That should be okay. I do want Taldarin to show up a bit earlier. I'm going to put him on the edge. There we go. Because I think it's better to have him start immediately doing damage. But yeah. Let's see. I do want the Taldarin out, and I do want the Gravimetric Overload coming in. Okay, we got a tank. This is actually a really tough fight for us here. Because we got Banshees, we got all these other things coming in here. Ooh, tanks just gonna destroy us there. Come here, Immortal. Manx is a really tough fight. Because he's just stronger on the ground in all ways. I'm gonna get another gas here. Hopefully our Manx can start doing something. There we go. Okay, got the Gravimetric Overload. I think the call is to go Disruptors, actually. Now, I don't know if it's going to be too greedy to get a gas here. Yeah, I'm going to get a gas. Devil may care, boys. I'm going to get a gas. Let's go. Boom. I got a gas here. We got small Dahaka coming out in large numbers. I think what I want to do is dive this Shock Division. I gotta silence the Shock Division. Shock Division is honestly the most dangerous thing here. Oh god. Alright, Taldarin in action here. He's gonna pull those guys together. Boom, you can see his AoE is pretty strong on the Warhounds. Okay, not bad at all. We couldn't get through to the last siege tank there. I think we need more Immortals, actually. I think in this situation we just need more Immortals. More Immortals, and maybe even some Zealots to try and, like, just run it down. Actually, I think the Zealots are probably not going to be that great. Based on just looking at how the waves are collapsing. More Immortals allows Taldarin to flex harder. And not flex harder, but like do more AoE. I don't really want to lean into Colossi if I don't have to, because Colossi are going to be problematic. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to blend. Let's blend to try and clear the way faster. And then so we can get rid of these guys here. Boom, 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 boom. Come on, Taldarin. Oh my god. I need Disruptors. This is the only way to win this, so I'm going to go save it for Disruptors here. Because these like large masses of Warhounds are perfect targets for Disruptors. And I think my wave is decently tanky enough that Disruptors should be able to handle it. We're not losing too hard right now, but we will be losing even harder later on. So if I don't get Disruptors now, it's going to be never. I think I still want to keep Fenix in his Praetor suit. Because if he's not in his Praetor suit, we're going to be in trouble. I think if anything, I want to get some weapon upgrades. So we got oracles coming in here. Oracles hopefully can hold it down. Okay. Somewhat. Alright, I need you to just dive over here and just boom. There we go. Come on. Okay, turn on the shield capacitors there. Oh my goodness. Not gonna be enough here. Come on, Taldarin. Come on, Taldarin. There we go. You can see your Taldarin's just annihilating these guys when he gets the chance to. But at the end of the day, Taldarin is only one guy. And the Warhounds are really getting to us. So I think having the Disruptors coming out here. Disruptors used to be a tier 2 guy, but now I think he's just simply too strong. Okay, so I have a plan. We're going to pull out the Arbiter, boys. We got to pull out the Arbiter. Let's see. There we go. And can I get another Disruptor here? No, I can't get another Disruptor here, so I'll do that. I'm going to try and get the Purification Echo here. Alright, so I'm going to try and micro this here. We're going to Cloaking Field this entire wave. Does he have any detection here? There is detection. Okay. And now, are we invisible? Okay, so he can't see anything. How do they have detection? Oh, they don't have any detection here. Okay, we're gonna remove that. Yep, so you can see the enemies caught on pretty quickly that we were invisible here. But that'll let us smash most of their front line. There we go. You want to make use of everything you got on hand, boys. I'm going to turn Observation Protocol. I'm going to turn Cyberus Arbiter into an Observer here. I do want to make sure that I can destroy my opponent's stuff. You can see here this Disruptor's gotten 11 kills, and that only spawned once. So yeah, Disruptors are pretty good. Taldarin coming in here. Okay. I mean, the heroes are all, like, gonna be stronger, like, in terms of damage output and stuff, but yeah. It's still gonna be a pretty tough uphill battle here. I'll just cloak these guys here, because why not? Okay. I'm gonna remove his detection here. Oh, he's got a worm. So, let's see. Okay. I'm gonna just actually stop his tanks. I should have stopped his tanks from hitting us a long time ago. And then we'll go invisible. Force him to scan. Basically, you just gotta force your opponent to pay the scan tax here. And then just lock those guys up. Locking enemy units up is pretty key here. We are actually making progress now. But the Liberators are gonna be a problem. I think we just gotta keep drowning them with these guys. I'm gonna put down another Conservator here. But yeah. Arbiter is going to be necessary, I think, for this whole fight. We have enemy air. Primal Mutos are coming in here. They're going to try and control the Arbiter, basically. Let's get the armaments. I'm going to get my cloaking module here. I'm going to get the optimized emitters as well, because that's going to be really key. I don't really have a unit to deal with the Sky Furies, though. I'm going to seal this up. Basically be invisible. Actually, that's not working. That really isn't working. Okay. Oof. Okay. I think I'm still gonna keep it in Cyberus Arbiter, actually, because the stasis field is actually pretty vital in this battle here. But you can see here, like, it's not a long-term solution. You can see how quickly your opponents catch on, and it just quickly swings back into their favor. I'm thinking maybe I should toss in some Zealots here at the front to hopefully just to take a little bit of damage off of my Adept Immortal line. Just take a little bit of aggro off. And hopefully that'll do something. Zealot charge. Okay. Just go completely invisible here. That'll maul the entire wave. Okay, they can see us now. They put out some detection somehow. Go invisible. Okay, they can't see us. Oh, there's a Dahaka worm there. Yeah, the Dahaka worm is pretty strong. Armax needs more tanks on the field, but it is what it is. We got a Disruptor to go. Let's see. Disruptor, 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 disruptor. Alright. This small Dahaka wave is pretty dominant here. There we go. Can't see. Okay, no, he put down a worm. He put down a worm. So once he puts down a worm, you want to save your resources here. If possible. Oh my god, my wave cannot get through Dahaka. Oh my goodness. I think it's also the large swarm of Dahaka Mutalisks that are up there. I think, if anything, I gotta get Mojo. Mojo's at least got some AoE. He's not gonna really do that much damage, though, in this situation. And I think I need more Adepts, actually. Let's get our... Let me get a second scout out here, at the very least. Get the suppression procedure. Combat sensor array. I think I need more... I actually need more Talus. More Adepts here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I just cannot get through these guys. I'm gonna seal those guys up. Yikes. Yeah, I'm having no success then with these guys because I just don't have enough guys to deal with these guys. Are you kidding me? I'm dealing 50% of the teams. Same! I feel like every time I do a Commander Guide gameplay video, the gameplay is always me getting absolutely mauled. Anyways, that is the conceptual concept of how to run it with Fenix here. I just want to show you guys the stats here, so hopefully I get some vindication that like I was actually doing all that I could do, but simply there was too much. Damage dealt 85. Okay. I'm still miles ahead of my team. I'm surprised our Manx did so poorly because honestly, Manx is just so powerful. Do you know what he's lacking? He's lacking tanks. He has 1 tank, 3 Aegis Guards instead. Yeah. So as you can see here, we tried our best. But sometimes, you know, it is still a team game. I mean, I was already against Manx, which is already a pretty tough matchup. The small Dahaka, I think, was actually pretty difficult as well, because he pulled out the Mutalisk here. Nova, I think, is manageable. She didn't get too many Liberators or Banshees. There's 3, actually. Liberators are manageable. Banshees are not. But yeah, so you can see here, even with the Arbiter being pulled out, there wasn't much we could do. There was a momentary swing with the Arbiter, as you could see, but we were just way too far behind for that to have mattered. But yeah, this is how to play Fenix. Fenix is primarily very strong on the ground. Maybe you're wondering why I don't have any Colossi, and that's because of this. This is why you can't buy Colossus. You can't have good things here. I don't think Colossus would have done much either. The main problem was dealing with this and just like the horrendous stack that was being allowed to exist. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this Commander Guide, be sure to leave a like and stick around for more because there'll be more coming along. Until next time, I will see you guys later.
In the rear with the gear. The tires, let's light some fires. Need a light. They picked the wrong fight.